Hello there! Today I'm going to show you the process of working on one of my recent paintings. It always starts with the same step, an outline. When I do an initial drawing study, I make a lot of adjustments, so I always use paper for that. And then I transfer the resulting drawing to the canvas. Otherwise, my canvas will look dirty and scratched. But before starting to work, I always fix pencil lines with diluted paint. It helps to prevent the mixing of graphite and paint. I prefer to keep the first layer as quick as possible. That's why I don't add a lot of color variety. You can see that I've been using the same colors for all roses, and the face is not as colorful as it can be, which will be considered a mistake in traditional realism schools. However, it saves a lot of time, so I can cover even a big canvas in a few hours, which is the most important thing at this step. When I work on big canvases, I divide the process into stages. The first one is creating a rough foundation for future painting. I try to keep this layer as thin as possible. Thus, it will dry quicker and I can return back to work sooner. In the meantime, I always work on a different painting. Switching from one painting to another helps me to feel better and not dive too deep into the painting, which happens sometimes anyway. It's the moment when you can't take a break from painting and keep thinking and searching and planning what can be improved and how. It's great to have the ability to notice this moment of overworking and overthinking and switch at the right time. Well, it wasn't related to the things that are happening in this video, but I wanted to talk to you about that. And it's time to switch back to the painting. The first layer usually doesn't take me more than a day, and I always do it with big brushes. I don't need to pick perfect colors. It's more about something similar to the result rather than exact. However, if I'm not sure about the way the painting will look or want to test a few options, I always do color sketches beforehand. They are small and quick, and they help me to understand better how I want the painting to look, where I want the focus to be, and what I want to hide. It's incredibly hard and time-consuming to solve these issues on big canvases, especially if you aren't quite sure about the whole palette of the painting. Recently, I fell in love with the combination of pink and light blue. That's why you can see so much of the cool colors in highlights and closer to the background. I've decided to add a texture to the background as a contrast to a very smooth and flat figure, and it took a lot of paint. Here's the second layer when I start to add details. My process consists of 3 layers. The first one you've already seen. It's a base for everything else. No variety in color, no details, only big brushes. The second layer is when I render everything as much as I can, and the third layer is for small fixes. I adjust areas that don't look perfect. This kind of process gives me an ability to create smooth transitions while the paint is still wet at the second stage. In this video, it seems that highlights on the cheek have a lot of white, but in reality it also has a cool light blue tint. You can clearly see it near the eye, while on the cheek it's similar in color, just a bit softer. Everything on the portrait was done in one day, wet on wet. It's the easiest way to achieve smoothness. I don't have a certain plan from which area I should start to work at the second stage. Sometimes I work from the top, sometimes from the bottom, or even from an area that I like the most. For example, an eye. It depends on what attracts me today, which part is the most interesting for me at the moment. It's rare, but with this painting it was the neck. Usually I start from the forehead or from an eye. In the previous video about how you shouldn't paint, I say that you shouldn't start painting from an eye. In this case, I can do that because I've created a foundation for myself. The first layer suggests the saturation, value, and temperature of colors. I really like to paint lips. I think that the most important is to create a transition between the color of the skin and lips, so they won't look cut out. Do you have a facial feature that you love to paint the most? I think that I love all of them for different reasons. For example, I love painting noses. It's always a challenge to paint nostrils. They shouldn't stand out too much, and at the same time, you should keep the shape of them. I find something interesting about each facial feature. However, for a long time, my least favorite part was painting lashes. I've already mentioned that in a separate video about them, so don't forget to check it if you don't like it as much as I did. When I paint eyebrows and lashes, I always try to find not perfect spots, so it won't look like they are drawn over the face. I don't like to add a lot of details to the hair and keep as simple as possible, otherwise it may attract attention that was supposed to go to the face. Working on the hand was pretty challenging this time because I wanted to emphasize how the colors of roses are affecting the skin color. And I also didn't want to make it too pink and too imperceptible. I wasn't guided by the reference photo, but my own feelings, an idea on how the hand should look like if there were so many saturated pink roses around. You can notice that the left part is much pinkier than the right one, because it's closer to the light, cool background. Most of the time I spent working on roses. You can notice a paper on the right side. I did a few studies from life when the roses were still blossoming. It was good preparation for a big painting. I bet you had times when you fell in love with a certain color and wanted to take a picture of it, but the result wasn't as good as the color that you saw in reality. That's why it can be so important to do a study from real life beforehand. It can be something quick, small, and even done digitally, but it's still better than relying fully on the photo. At the first try, I've kept all roses pretty similar, but in the process of work, I understood that I want them to be on different planes. Some should look as they are closer to us, while others will be further, dissolving in the background. So I had to repaint a few of them, adding new accents and making some lighter. This painting was created for an exhibition of women artists. It will take place from the 8th of March to the 2nd of May at Miem Museum in Barcelona, Spain. The name of this painting is Expiration Date. I wanted to show a moment when the beauty slips through our fingers, when the feeling of being young and fresh and beautiful just slips away. It's still a bit hard for me to talk about the meaning and emotions behind artworks that I create. It feels too personal to talk about it out loud. Do you have the same issue? I'm learning how to speak about that, but it feels a bit strange. This process was filmed for my Patreon page. Usually I post there something quicker, but this time I wanted to share a more complicated process that consists of many stages. I'm not sure how much time it took me to create this painting. As far as I can see by the length of all videos that I had to put together, it was at least 30 hours. Of course, I wasn't able to post the full process in real time, but on Patreon you can find a much longer version of this painting with my comments. In the end, I've decided to add thicker brush strokes to roses to have a connection with the texture on the background. And here is the result. I hope that you liked watching this video, and if so, don't forget to give it a like, write a comment and subscribe to this channel. And I hope to see you soon. Bye!